Now, from CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Good morning, I'm Jim DeFede and welcome to Facing South Florida. After being trapped on I-95 in Virginia for more than 20 hours, I can say it's good to be back in Florida. And later in the show, I will interview a group of Good Samaritans who handed out bread to the hungry roadside refugees. I posted a video from the road on Twitter showing the kindness of these strangers, and it went viral. Well, for the first time, we reunite everyone involved, and you're going to want to see it. It's truly amazing. But first, I sat down with Florida Congressman Charlie Crist on the one-year anniversary of the January 6th insurrection and asked him for his thoughts on the day.
I was in disbelief, and in disbelief that our president, then president, wasn't responding in any way to try to shut it down. And I don't know if the reports had come out yet at that time that others were trying to urge him to do exactly that. And he was still refusing to do so. And I got to tell you, I watched President Biden's speech this morning, and I thought it was extraordinary. I think it's the best speech I've ever heard him give. And he really laid it at the feet of the former president, and I think appropriately so. It was a powerful, historic speech for President Biden today. God bless him for it.
Why do you think what occurred a year ago happened? What was the motivation of the folks who did that? And I mean that because I'm sure in their minds they thought they were doing something good. So how did we get to that point in our country where hundreds or thousands of individuals might think that storming the Capitol and chanting "Hang Mike Pence" and trying to disrupt the counting of votes is a good thing? How do you get to that point in this country, and where will we go from here?
That's a great question. The honest answer is I don't know, but I'll do my best to try to give you a response. I mean, we're in the middle of a COVID pandemic now, right? In some ways, we're in the middle of a political pandemic where extremes have kind of taken over, unfortunately, my former party, the Republican Party. But then add to that element, Jim, if you will, that the then current president encourages them to march on the Capitol, up to the Capitol, and take it to them and fight in a cheerleading speech right before the fact happened. And that's a perfect recipe for disaster. And I think that explains what happened. And it's horrible to imagine that could happen in our country. You know, the Capitol itself was not even attacked during the Civil War, but under the prior president, it was attacked a year ago today.
You know, Governor Ron DeSantis was asked for his thoughts on January 6th today, and he seemed to completely want to downplay it and said this is Christmas for New York and Washington media elites, and that people in Florida really don't care about what occurred on January 6th. Your reaction?
I'm astounded by it. And I think he also added, if I remember right, something about this is not what an insurrection is. I looked up insurrection. It is a violent attack upon authority or government. Well, if the governor of this state doesn't understand that that's what happened that day, a year ago today, he needs to go back to school. Or he needs to go to governor's.
Let me just hold you there. I think the point he was also making, though, was that nobody has actually been charged with the crime of insurrection.
Well, a lot of people have been charged. I saw a great speech the other day by the United States Attorney General. I think it's now over 700 people have been charged. And here's the most embarrassing part of that. The majority, or the state that has the most of them in it, is Florida. And so, you know, we've got this governor that's a denier, apparently, as it relates to the insurrection itself. You know, we have the former president that lives in our state. And, you know, both of them are encouraging the big lie, if you will. I mean, it shouldn't, you know, shock us that many people have been encouraged in Florida, you know, to participate in things like that. But just a case of how we need better leadership and we need it fast. It's part of the reason I'm running for governor.
You know, there was a CBS National News poll recently that said that many Americans, most Americans, I think, believe something like January 6th will happen again. That's more likely to happen than not. Do you think that it's almost inevitable that we have more incidents like this?
I don't think so. And you know, we have to hope that the better angels among us can rise above this. Again, that's why I thought it was so important, the way President Biden spoke to the country this morning, really indicating that this kind of thing should never happen again. We have a congressional committee. I'm a member of Congress, as you know, that's really digging into this. It is, thank God, bipartisan because of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. And I think they're doing great work. And I think they're going to really have a significant impact, hopefully, on the future of this never happening again in America.
Yeah, but I guess you may be more optimistic than I am, only in the sense that a year later, it seems that the forces who support Donald Trump are ever growing. I'm not sure there's much of a middle left in Florida.
Well, let me give you a ray of hope that there is a middle still left in Florida. I think this is really a line of demarcation as it relates to politics, not only in Florida, but in our country. And the reminder of it annually, every January the 6th, is very important, just like it is for other historic days, because you want to never forget the terrible things that can happen in the past.
We're seeing a rise in Omicron across the country and in the state of Florida in particular. We're seeing long lines for people wanting to get tests. We're hearing that there is a shortage of monoclonal, antibodies for treatment. If you were governor right now, what steps would you be taking other than those steps that the current governor, Ron DeSantis? How would you handle this crisis right now different than Governor DeSantis is handling it?
I would actually do something. What I see out of him is advocating the medicine after you get sick. Well, if you get sick, it's great that we have a medicine to take. But my dad's a doctor. My sister's a doctor. In medicine, the old axiom is prevention is the best medicine, whether you're talking about cancer or COVID. And so the thing you do is you get a vaccination. You wear a mask when you're indoors. The governor doesn't promote it. Neither does his surgeon general. So what I would do is advocate what science tells you are facts. And follow good healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, and others that are giving us the advice, the CDC, about what to do to keep ourselves more safe. And he isn't doing it. I would be doing it. And I think Floridians deserve that. They deserve the truth. They deserve to be encouraged to do what we know is right. And we know from Dr. Fauci that keeps other people from getting infected. It blows my mind that the governor won't do that, nor his surgeon general.
The governor is talking about trying to get upwards of 1 million tests into nursing home and those who are at most critically at risk, essentially drawing a line saying if we only have a finite amount of resources, we should dedicate those resources to those who are most vulnerable, that people who are not sick should not be getting tested for COVID, even if they've come in contact with someone who may have COVID. Even folks who have mild symptoms should not necessarily test, according to the governor, because we need to preserve those tests for people who are truly sick and may need to end up in a hospital. Do you agree with that approach?
No, I don't. Listen, I think it's important to take care of our seniors. I just put out a 6-point plan to protect seniors and do better for them than this administration is doing for them. But what I also know is, if you don't take a test, you don't know if you're sick. He doesn't know that those people aren't sick. The symptoms are apparently milder with Omicron, and thank God for that. But still, some people are going to die from it, and that's horrible. But for the governor to go out and say that people shouldn't be getting tested, how are you going to know if you've been infected or not if you don't get the test? Again, it's a policy based upon illogic thinking. The guy went to Harvard and Yale, for crying out loud. He's got to know better than this. I just don't comprehend it. I don't understand it unless you're more focused on that Republican base for a presidential campaign in 2024 and worrying more about Iowa voters than the people of Florida, his current constituents.
You mentioned the plan that you put out with regard to seniors. Let's talk a little bit more about that. What are you trying to achieve, and how does your approach with dealing with seniors differ from the current governor?
Dramatically. Number one, I think the most important part of that plan, Jim, is to accept Medicaid expansion. If we do that, and that'll affect a ton of seniors. If we do that one act alone, and as governor, I would commit to doing so. In fact, I have stated that if I'm elected governor, I will not sign a state budget unless I'll veto it, unless it contains Medicaid expansion within it. Because without Medicaid expansion, 800,000 to 1 million of our fellow Floridians are not getting the health care that they deserve. Let's get our fair share back as Floridians. We pay our taxes to the federal government. Let's get Medicaid expansion so more of our seniors get it and more of our citizens get health care coverage. The governor's opposed to it. Again, it defies logic to me. You know, where's the compassion? Where's the empathy? Where's the caring?
When we come back, a story that affirms you can always find a bit of humanity in the worst of situations. Stay with us.